I'm just going to say it. A lot of people move to Seattle and end up hating it. Not everyone, but enough people that if you're thinking about moving here, you should probably know why. Because on paper, Seattle looks incredible. High-paying jobs, especially in tech, beautiful views, mountains, water everywhere, strong real estate market. But what doesn't show up online are the day-to-day realities of actually living here. So in this video, I'm going to break down the real reasons people say I hate it here about Seattle. And more importantly, how people who actually love living here make it work. Because that's the difference. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Jesse Aspuria. I'm a local realtor with Compass here in Seattle, specializing in the Eastside. I help a lot of buyers and sellers relocating into areas like Bellevue, Redmond, Sammamish, Woodinville, Issaquah, Bothell, and Kirkland, and everywhere else. And a lot of people actually reach out to me directly from YouTube. So if you're thinking about making a move, feel free to connect. All my info is in the description. Alright, let's get into the real reasons people regret moving to Seattle and what you can actually do about it. The weather isn't rain, it's the gray. Everyone talks about the rain, but honestly, the rain isn't the problem, it's the gray. Here's what people don't realize until they get here. Seattle doesn't actually get that much rain by volume. New York City, Houston, Miami, they all get more total rainfall than Seattle does. What Seattle gets is frequency. The city averages around 150 rainy days per year, but more importantly, it averages around 200 fully cloudy days per year. Some studies put that number closer to 226. That puts Seattle in the top 5 gloomiest cities in the entire country. And in winter, it sets in early. The sun starts setting around 4:15 to 4:30 in December and January. By 8 a.m., you're still waiting for it to come up. By the time you get off work, it's already dark. But here's what makes it even harder to stomach. It doesn't really end in spring. Locals joke about this all the time. Real consistent sunshine doesn't actually arrive until after the 4th of July. Spring here is a coin flip. You might get a beautiful week in April and think the corner has been turned. And then you're right back to gray and drizzle for another 6 weeks, making it still feel like November. June is notoriously overcast, so much that locals have a name for it, January. So, when people back home are posting pool photos in May, you're still in a fleece wondering when it's going to happen. That's the issue. It's not just the winter, it's that the reprieve you're expecting in the spring is unreliable, and the real payoff doesn't come until mid-summer. That's not just inconvenient. For a lot of people, it's genuinely disorientating. There's a real condition called seasonal affective disorder, and Seattle creates that conditions for it about as well as anywhere in the US. And here's something people don't talk about enough. If you're moving here single or living alone, this is where it can get really hard. The gray isn't just a weather thing, it's a social thing. People stay inside, plans get canceled, the city gets quieter, and when you don't have a partner or a built-in household to come home to, those long stretches of dark and gray can feel genuinely isolating in a way that's hard to describe until you live through a November here. I've had friends tell me directly the first winter alone in Seattle was one of the lonelier stretches of their life. Not because the city is bad, but because the weather creates a kind of inertia that pulls everyone inward. It's not dramatic weather. There's no thunder, no ice storm, no blizzards. It's just constant. Gray skies, drizzle, short days. Now, how people actually deal with it? The people who thrive here don't wait for sunshine. They build routines around the weather. And honestly, that's what I do personally. I play indoor beach volleyball, and pickleball is everywhere right now. That's become one of the biggest ways people out here stay active and social year-round. Once you're here a while, you just figure out your indoor everything. Indoor sports, indoor fitness, covered courts. You stop waiting for a nice day and you start planning around what's available year-round. That mind shift is huge. Beyond sports, it means gym membership, fitness classes, ski passes, hiking, even when it's overcast. It means planning winter trips to break up the stretch from November through February. A lot of Seattleites build at least one warm weather trip into those months deliberately. And it means being proactive socially, especially if you're single or new to town. The people who struggle here are the ones who wait for the weather to invite them out. The people who thrive are the ones who create the social structures themselves, regardless of what's happening outside. And here's the flip side nobody talks about enough. Seattle summers are genuinely world class. Long days, low humidity, the high 70s, temperatures in the high 70s and low 80s. The sun doesn't set until after 9 p.m. in June. You get nearly 16 hours of daylight at the peak of summer. So the trade-off is real, and for a lot of people, it's worth it. The Seattle freeze, hard to make friends. This one surprises people more than anything else. You move here expecting the energy of a major city, and what you get instead is polite distance. Yes, people hold doors, they wave you through at intersections, they're perfectly pleasant in line at the coffee shop. And then you suggest getting together sometime and you never hear from them again. This is called the Seattle freeze. And it has real data behind it. A University of Washington survey found that 70% of respondents said it was hard to make new friends in Seattle. A 2024 census survey found that 43% of Washingtonians reported feeling lonely, at least occasionally, one of the highest rates in the country. Among young adults in Seattle, that number hit 50%. One study on social cohesion ranked Seattle 48th out of 51 comparable cities for the propensity to talk to their neighbors, and 37 for simple acts of community like doing favors for people nearby. Only about 30% of Seattle's adult population is actually native born here. The rest came for work or for school, which means most people are in the same boat, building networks from scratch. But the irony is that everyone assumes everyone else is already established, so nobody reaches out. What actually works here? You can't be passive socially. You have to be intentional. The best ways people build real community here are through structured activity. Fitness groups like CrossFit or run clubs, pickleball clubs, volleyball leagues, rec leagues, kids' schools and activities, tech meetups, church communities, neighborhood associations. When there's a shared activity built in, the freeze thaws fast. And the good news is that finding these things is easier than ever. You've got Facebook groups and are honestly one of the best tools here. Search your specific city like Kirkland Community, Bellevue Newcomers, Redmond Families. You'll find active groups, even with event postings, meetups, and people are actively looking to connect. Same goes for next door, which is a hyper-local by neighborhood. The people who struggle are the ones waiting for organic friendships to develop the way it might in a smaller town. That's not how Seattle works. The people who build great social lives here are the ones who put themselves in situations with built-in repetition and then show up consistently. All right, the cost of living feels high. Seattle is expensive. And it's not just housing, it's everything. The overall cost of living here runs about 44 to 45% higher than the national average. And that gap shows up in ways that sneak up on you before you ever get to your mortgage payment. Let's start with the food, because this one surprises people. Groceries in Seattle run about 10 to 13% higher than the national average. Eggs, ground beef, chicken, it adds up fast. A pound of chicken breast that might run $4 in the Midwest is $5 to $7 here. A dozen eggs are pushing $4. For a family doing a full weekly shop, you're feeling that every single time you check out. And dining out, Washington State has the highest chain restaurant prices in the entire country, 13.6% above the national average. Seattle specifically runs about 17% above the major city average. Only San Francisco is more expensive to eat out in. Fast food isn't even a budget option anymore. The average fast food combo meal in Seattle runs around $13 to $14. According to LendingTree, Seattle is the second most expensive city in the country for fast food, right behind San Francisco. And look, I'll just be honest with you. I went to Taco Time not too long ago to grab food for my wife and $2. One hard taco, almost $5 for one taco. I stood there doing the math in my head and I couldn't believe it. That's not fine dining, that's fast food. And that kind of sticker shock hits you on a Tuesday afternoon when you're just trying to feed your family. And the sales tax in Seattle is 10.25%, which you feel on every purchase. Utilities, interestingly, are one of the areas where Seattle is closer to average. Electricity runs around $130 to $200 a month for a typical household. And the mild climate means you're not running heavy AC in summer or cranking heat constantly in winter. That's actually one of the more reasonable line items in the budget. But healthcare runs about 20-26% above the national average. Entertainment and personal care coming around 20-23% higher. Clothing is about 23% more expensive than the national average. The math adds up fast. A single person in Seattle should budget around $3,500 a month just for basic living expenses, not including rent. A family of four is looking at roughly $7,500 to $8,000 a month before housing. And then there's housing. The median home price across all of King County is now sitting around $860,000 to $895,000 for single family homes, depending on the data source. Once you get to the Eastside, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, Sammamish, those numbers jump significantly. Sammamish is averaging around $1.57 million. Bellevue is around $1.44 million. Kirkland is around $1.2 million. Even Bothell is now over $1 million. And that's before property taxes, which in King County run around 1 to 1.1% of assessed value annually. On an $850,000 home, that's roughly $8,500 to $9,000 to $350 a year just in taxes. Everything adds up. And even for people who do earn strong incomes, there's a real sense of just keeping up rather than getting ahead. Alright, here's how people make it work. The first thing people figure out is that your everyday spending habits have to adjust. Cooking at home more consistently makes a massive difference here. Seattle has great options: Trader Joe's, grocery outlet, local farmer markets, and people who learn to shop smart and cook regularly save hundreds of dollars a month compared to eating out. Meal prepping, batch cooking, learning a few solid go-to recipes. It sounds basic, but in a city where a sit-down dinner for two can run $80 to $100 with tip and tax, it generally adds up. Same thing with coffee. Look, Seattle has incredible coffee culture, but if you're buying a $6 latte every morning, that's $150 a month just on coffee. A lot of long-time residents invest in a decent espresso setup at home and save Starbucks or the local cafe for a treat rather than a daily habit. Your wallet will thank you. Budgeting intentionally from day one, tracking categories, knowing where money actually goes is something people who thrive here do early rather than figuring it out after a year of a sticker shock. Beyond day-to-day, there's a tax advantage a lot of people overlook. Washington State currently has no income tax for the vast majority of residents. Now, a new law was just signed though that will impose a 9.9% tax on income over $1 million starting in 2028. But that affects less than 0.5% of Washingtonians. For most people watching this, the no income tax advantage is real and it's meaningful. If you're coming from California, Oregon, or most other states, that's an immediate boost to your take-home pay. For someone earning $150,000, that can mean $10,000 to $15,000 more in your pocket annually compared to living in a state with income tax. That's real money, and it offsets a lot of day-to-day cost gap. And then the mind shift on housing is huge. The people who do well here stop thinking about housing as an expense and start thinking about it as a long-term position. Over the past 20 years, King County home values increased roughly 6 to 7% per year on average. In 2015, the median home price was around $310,000. Today, it's nearly 3 times that. People who bought 10 to 15 years ago are sitting on life-changing equity. The people building wealth here are buying when they can instead of renting indefinitely, choosing areas with growth potential, places like Issaquah, Kenmore, Bothell, parts of Redmond, and using income growth, equity, and RSUs from tech jobs to compound over time. Yes, it's expensive, but it's expensive with real long-term upside if you play it right. Alright, you got traffic and commutes. Not annoying, sometimes bad, statistically bad. According to INRIX, the Kirkland-based transportation analytics firm, Seattle ranked 10th in the nation for traffic congestion in 2025. The average Seattle commuter lost 68 hours sitting in traffic last year. That's nearly 3 full workdays, and it cost the average driver over $1,200 annually in lost time and fuel. The worst single quarter in the region, that's northbound I-405 from Renton to I-90 interchange, which happens to be the main artery between Seattle and the East Side. it ranked in the 25 most congested corridors in the entire country. And the geographic reality here makes it worse than it sounds. Seattle is built on water. Lake Washington sits between the city and the east side. And there are only a handful of crossing points. You got I-90, 520, and a few service roads. When one of those bridges backs up, your options are limited. Here's what people do differently. The people who solve the commute problem here don't try to fight it at rush hour. They live closer to where they work. A 10 to 15 minute commute on the east side is very achievable if you're strategic about where you live relative to your job. They take advantage of remote and hybrid work, which is extremely common in the tech-heavy economy here. Microsoft requires 3 days in the office, and a lot of smaller companies are still fully flexible. And now, there's a major new option. The East Lake Light Rail extensions, known as the 2 Line, completed its full cross-lake connection in March of 2026, opening true one-seat rail service between the east side and downtown Seattle for the first time in the region's history. You can now take light rail from Redmond or Bellevue directly into Seattle without a car, without a bridge toll, and without sitting in traffic on I-90. That's genuinely transformative for a lot of commuters, and it's only going to expand. Sound Transit 3 includes future extensions to Kirkland, Issaquah, and beyond. This is a city actively investing in solving the commute problem. Alright, you've got homelessness and safety perception. This is something people notice quickly, especially if they're coming from a quieter suburban areas or smaller cities. And the numbers are real. On a single night in January 2024, more than 16,000 individuals were counted as experiencing homelessness in King County alone. Washington State ranks 3rd in the country for total homeless population, and over half of that population is concentrated right here in King County. The city of Seattle itself ranks at the 8th percentile for overall safety, meaning 92% of American cities are safer. Property crime in Seattle runs nearly double the national average. That's not a perception issue, that's data. And if you're walking through certain parts of downtown Seattle, SoDo, or areas like 3rd Avenue, you will see it. You got encampments, open drug use, people in visible crisis. For someone relocating from a quiet suburb in the Midwest or the South, it can be a genuine shock. There's also a broader safety picture worth understanding. Seattle's overall crime rate runs significantly above the national average, driven largely by property crime, car break-ins, catalytic converter theft, and package theft are generally common complaints among Seattle residents. Violent crime, while lower relative to its overall crime rate, is still above average compared to the rest of the country. But here's the reality and the solution. Here's the thing though, and this is critical for anyone evaluating a move here. This is entirely location specific. Yes, downtown Seattle is one experience, but the experience has almost nothing to do with daily life in Bellevue, Sammamish, Kirkland, Woodinville, Issaquah, Redmond. The contrast is dramatic. Some residents, Sammamish different, that's a complete different reality. Sammamish, Mercer Island, and Issaquah consistently rank among the safest cities in the entire country, not just in Washington. Bellevue, despite being a major city with over 150,000 residents, has a violent crime rate roughly 60% lower than Seattle's. Kirkland and Redmond are in the same category. So, if this is a concern for you, and it's a completely legitimate concern, the answer isn't to cross Seattle off the list. The answer is to be strategic about where you actually live. The East Side is generally a different world in terms of safety and livability. And that's one of the biggest reasons people who relocate for work end up planting roots in these suburbs rather than the city itself. This is where having someone local in your corner really matters, because these distinctions aren't always obvious from the outside when you're researching a move. Alright, you got tech culture that dominates. Seattle is heavily shaped by 2 companies. You got Amazon and Microsoft. Together they employ tens of thousands of people in the region. Amazon's headquarters towers over South Lake Union, Microsoft campus fills Redmond, and around them you've got Google, Meta, Apple, Salesforce, Nintendo, SpaceX, and dozens of mid-sized startup tech companies. That concentration affects everything. Work culture tends to be fast, high-achieving, and work-centric. Social life can feel transactional. Even outside the office, conversations often default to what people do professionally. For some people who didn't come here for tech, artists, educators, healthcare workers, tradespeople, it can feel like the city wasn't really built for them. But here's how people balance it. The key is knowing which part of the region fits your lifestyle. The Eastside has natural separations, Woodinville is wine country and outdoor living. Issaquah sits right at the edge of the Cascades. Sammamish has a tight-knit suburban feel. Bothell has a growing food and art scene. Even with Kirkland and Redmond, there are neighborhoods that feel much more removed from the Microsoft campus culture than others. People who build the best lives here are deliberate about separating their work identity from their lifestyle, building routines that have nothing to do with their jobs, and taking advantage of the outdoor access that the Puget Sound region generally does better than almost everyone. You don't have to be in a tech bubble, but you do have to be intentional about stepping out of it. Last, it takes time to feel at home. This might be the biggest one, and the one people talk about least before they move here. Seattle doesn't click right away. Between the weather adjustment, the social dynamics, the cost of living, and the learning curve of figuring out where you actually fit geographically, it does take time. A lot of people hit a wall around 3 months to 6 months and start wondering if they made a mistake. And here's the honest solution. Give it time. And be intentional about the things you can control. People who end up loving Seattle tend to have a few things in common. They pick a neighborhood or a city generally match their lifestyle, not just their budget or commute. They get involved early, join something, start showing up somewhere consistently, found a way to meet people through shared activity. And they gave it a real runway, not just 3 months, 6 to 12 months before drawing conclusions. This isn't a city that wins you over in a weekend visit or a quick relocation trip, but for the people it clicks with, and a lot of people it clicks with, they tend to stay for a long time. Now, here's the interesting part. Every single one of these problems is actually the reason someone else loves living here. The great weather and the long winters, the person who hates humidity and blazing heat thinks this is paradise. They'll tell you they'll take great drizzle over a Houston August every single time. The Seattle freeze? The introvert who just wants friendly neighbors but not people in their business thinks this city was built for them. No one dropping by unannounced, no pressure, just space. The cost of living, the person who bought here 10 years ago isn't complaining. They're sitting on equity that changed their financial life. And they're doing it in a state with, at the moment, 0 income tax. The traffic, the person who went fully remote and lives 5 minutes from their favorite trail doesn't even think about, I-405. The tech culture, the engineer relocating from California just got a raise, a lower tax bill, and a mortgage that, while expensive, is still cheaper than what they had left behind. Look, the city isn't for everyone, but for the right person, it fits like a glove. So the question was never, is Seattle good or bad? It was always, is Seattle right for you? So instead of asking, is Seattle good or bad? Ask, is Seattle right for me? Because for the right person, this is one of the best places to live in the country. If you're thinking about moving to Seattle or the East Side, and you want to help figure out where you'd actually fit best, again, feel free to reach out. A lot of people connect with me directly through YouTube to buy and sell here, and I'd be happy to help. And if you want more honest breakdowns like this, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.